Okay, this is my tips and tricks for working with epoxy and or resin. I have myself. I make epoxy tumbler cups. My one of my friends makes resin stuff, and another one works with epoxy doing deep pours. So with that in mind, I had found some tips and tricks to pass on to them. So anyway, here we go. I pre-measured my side A and my side B after I warmed them up in a baby bottle warmer. Um, Depending on how much I'm using, depends on how long I heat it. But I learned a new trick tonight, and so I wanted to share it. So you pour your A side and your B side, and instead of pouring B into A or A into B, either way, you usually end up with a fair amount of bubbles. But this evening, I found that if you take the measuring cups and pour them together like this into another measuring device, they mix as they're going in, and I didn't get as many bubbles when I poured them. Then another trick I found while I was doing this was, instead of using the wooden sticks that everybody loves and they are cheaper, but I'm finding that for some reason I think the wooden sticks cause more air bubbles than using plastic. So as you can see, I don't really have any real bubbles. As you can see, okay? And I usually mix in one direction for 2 minutes. Let me start my timer. Well, anyway, I mix until you can tell it's mixed. But you mix in one direction. I usually mix for about 2 minutes. But I'm finding that there's less bubbles, and the bubbles that are there are rising to the top a lot quicker. The trick here is to go slow. Don't be in a rush. When you are pouring out your mix into the measuring cups, you have a 1-to-1 ratio for most stuff that people use. I use Amazing Cast epoxy, hardener, and whatever the other one is. But you mix it, and as you can see, the bubbles that are there rise to the top a lot quicker. See, not a very good angle. Another trick that I have found this week, and this is very, very important, especially with working with epoxy. The last thing you want is to pour that layer onto whatever you're working and come back a day later and find a stray dog hair in it after it's set up. That's a video for another time, but that was very disheartening. I had to actually heat the area up, pull the water slide out, and put another one in, and sand it down and reseal it and try to make everything blend. So my tip to you on that is keep a lint roller close by you at all times, and before you start pouring, lint roll your clothes. Also, when wiping down the tumblers and stuff, use a lint-free cloth. try to stay away from paper towels. Sometimes they carry lint in them, or dog hair. They pick up, all kinds of stuff. You want a lint-free or microfiber, something that is going to maybe repel, I'd say, the dog hair and stuff. Like I said, that was very disheartening. Luckily, I was able to fix the problem, and it didn't cause a big issue, and I only had one layer of the epoxy on there at that time, so I got really lucky. Alright, so here we are. I've mixed for about a minute and a half, and all the bubbles, or what's in there, are still coming up to the top a lot quicker than they do when you pour one into the other. Okay? For people that do deep pours, like on tables and stuff like my other friend does, I know that the warmer it is, sometimes it cuts down on your working time. Also, the volume that you're working with it. So, I use small volumes. But if you're pouring like half gallons at a time, you got more volume of the epoxy and the hardener. And sometimes it heats up quicker, so you've got less working time. So just keep that in mind before you decide to, heat the epoxy up before you start pouring. If you're doing a lot of, a large volume and you're doing a deep pour, you might want to stay away from heating the epoxy resin before you pour it. Okay, so that's kind of my tips and tricks for tonight. But as you can see, I'm gonna try to. There's really not a lot of bubbles in there, and if you are finding bubbles, of course, a lot of people know to take their heat gun and kind of heat it up that way. That helps pull the bubbles up to the top as well. But I just thought I'd pass this on. Pouring it together instead of one into the other will actually, I think, eliminates a lot more of the bubbles. Alright, until next time, y'all have a wonderful night and keep on tumbling.